Mike Radich here, and I'm now joined on the phone by CFFC Welterweight Sam Oropeza. Sam, how are you?
I'm doing great, Mike. Thanks for having me on today.
Sure, no problem. Thanks for doing it. Sam, you got a fight coming up Halloween night at CFFC 52. How's training been going for the fight?
This has been easily the best training camp of my life, and I'm saying that because, you know, the amount of time I have put into this sport, the rapport I have built with my coaches over the years, and, you know, the determination I have going into this fight, and the one thing that's just taken me over the top is having the proper nutrition, having my meals planned out for me, and really having that team that's just going above and beyond what most people are going to do for their fighters. And it's all going to make sense when I step into the cage Halloween night.
You're fighting LaVon Maynard. What are your thoughts about him as an opponent?
I'm very excited for this fight. I'm excited for several reasons, one of which is LaVon Maynard's a tough dude. He is really has that fearless spirit when he fights, and he's gonna stand there right in front of me, and he's gonna want to fight me, and they're the guys that I want to fight. And I'm also excited because I'm back in Atlantic City in front of, you know, I'm from Philadelphia, but, you know, Atlantic City to Philadelphia is basically a hometown crowd, and it's just the right opponent at the right time at the right place.
Mm-hmm. Now, since you've been back out on the regional circuit, you've been viewed as the favorite going into your fights. And in the beginning of your career, that wasn't the case. In the beginning of your career, you were someone who was overlooked, underestimated. You were playing that underdog role. Now, since you've been back on the regional circuit, you've been viewed as the favorite. So I'm just curious, is that a welcome change, you going from underdog to favorite? And how does it feel being the favorite going into this fight?
I'm going to be honest with you, I never look at that, and I really, whether I'm a favorite or an underdog, it really doesn't even matter to me. And the reason why I say that is it's a fight. Anything can happen, and, you know, there's somebody whose job it is to sit there and to do a mathematical equation to figure out who is a favorite to win a fight. Is just that idea to me is just ridiculous. You know, every time that I was an underdog, it would make me laugh because, you know, there's no number you could put into a calculator to determine the size of my heart and to determine the desire I have to win every fight. So being a favorite, it's the same thing to me as being an underdog. You know, I'm going to go out. I'm going to perform to the best of my ability. So whatever somebody else says about me is never going to affect my performance.
Mm-hmm. How do you view LaVon Maynard competition-wise? Because obviously there's a lot of fans out there who view anyone that you fight on the regional circuit not at your level. There's a lot of guys out there who are tough guys, maybe have some big names, but a lot of fans feel like, you know, right now you can compete with guys who are top 10 in the UFC's welterweight division. There's a lot of people out there who are very excited on what the future holds for you, and a lot of people feel like you should already be in the UFC considering you're on a great win streak and you finished all your fights and you fought in Bellator, which is the second biggest promotion in MMA. So a lot of people view the competition that you're going to be fighting on the regional circuit not up to your level. But it really doesn't matter what the people think. It matters what you think. How do you view LaVon Maynard competition-wise? Do you view him as a step up, a lateral step, the appropriate step in your career, trying to make that jump to the UFC? How do you view him competition-wise?
I look at LaVon Maynard as somebody who could easily fight at the welterweight division in UFC. I could see him even beating guys in the UFC at 170 pounds. I think this is a great matchup. This is a great opponent. He brings a lot of different things to this fight. You know, he's good on his feet. He's good on the ground. He can defend the takedown. He can score takedowns. And you know, he shows up to fight. And the way I'm, you know, saying if it's a step forward, a step backwards, you know, everything's always going to be a step forward for me. You know, it's an opponent, it's a fight, it's an opportunity. And the way I've been training, the way my mind feels, the way my body feels, the way I just believe in myself, people are going to see me walk out in that cage and just do exactly what I do in the first round and just be amazed at the speed, the strength, the power that I'm hitting with, the skill that I have, that it's like there's going to be no denying. There's going to be absolutely no denying after this fight. And I'm not looking past the 31st, but I mean, if you're going off what people judge as the standard to get into the UFC, when they watch this fight, if they are on the fence, they're going to be crazy to think that I do not belong there. I absolutely belong there.
This fight is going to be fought at the catchweight of 175 pounds. Why the catchweight?
For two reasons. Number one, I had difficulty making 170 in the past, and it was a mistake that I know I've made, and it's not going to happen again. And to tell you where I'm at right now, weight-wise, I woke up this morning at 180 pounds. 180 pounds. I would wake up the day of weigh-ins at 185 pounds. At times I would make 170. I would show up. It would be Monday. I would weigh in Thursday or Friday. I would literally weigh over 200 pounds. So everything has changed. Everything has shifted. And also, it's at 175 pounds, and this is not a knock at anything. I'm not doing this to get rich. I'm doing this because I love it. For me to sacrifice those 5 extra pounds, I believe there needs to be a better compensation. And again, I'm not knocking regional shows, but let's face the facts. If I'm going to put myself in a certain amount of danger, I want there to be a monetary value reward waiting for me. I think that's smart with anybody. Like, you want to go do a job unless you felt you were getting the correct wage for it. So that's another reason why this will be a catchweight at 175.
I know you're a fighter who likes to watch a lot of film on their opponents, but I'm just curious, and this doesn't have to be for LaVon Maynard. This can be just for any opponent that you're going to be preparing for. It doesn't have to be for Maynard, but if you want to talk about how you prepared for him, that's okay too. But just in general, when you prepare for a fight, how much film exactly do you watch? Do you watch every fight that your opponent has had over the course of his career? Do you only watch like the most recent 2 or 3 fights, or the most recent 5 fights that they had? How many fights do you watch of your opponents? And also, when you watch the film, do you focus more on the losses that they've had over the course of their career, or do you focus more on the wins that they've had during their career? How exactly do you break down a fighter when you watch them on film?
I'll tell you exactly what I do, and I do this for every opponent that I've ever faced. This is my strategy. I'm not afraid to tell anybody this. I go back and I watch their first fights, their earliest fights, and then I go and watch their most recent fights. Whatever mistakes they've made in their earliest fights that they make in their most recent fights, chances are that it's habitual. It's a habit that they have developed, that the possibility of them making that same mistake again when they face me is most likely going to happen. Again, I'm not training to ever fight one fighter. Every training camp, my goal is to get better every day. Not get better at fighting the guy I'm fighting, but for me to get better, okay? And I've developed the person I am, the style that I fight, and I don't change it for anybody. But what I do is I pick up on the little tiny mistakes they make. And if you watch my most recent fights, you'll see I'm able to capitalize on people's mistakes, like at the moment they make it, and that's the reason why. It's almost like I believe in it so much that you could blindfold me, and I would do it, and I had that faith that it would land. There was a couple times where Chip Pollard, for instance, my eyes were closed when I threw that punch. I just believed it. I knew when that right hand tapped me, it was going to go down low, and I threw my left hand over the top, and it landed. So it's looking for those little mistakes, I can't stop LaVon Maynard from being good at what he's doing, but I can pick up on the mistakes he's going to make.
Have you always been a big film study guy, or as your career has progressed and you've prepared for more fights, have you added that into your game? Like, has that always been a part of how you prepared since day one?
I wish you could talk to my fiancée Amanda. She would tell you. I'm never not watching tape. If I'm not training physically, I am, obviously I'm going to have conversations. I'm not always going to be glued to a computer screen. But I'm always studying film. And I'm not just watching my opponent. I'm watching myself. I'm watching fighters that I admire, fighters that I am just trying to get the timing down, figuring it out. I mean, I go back gosh, I mean, the other day I was watching a fight from like 1915, Ketchel Fitzsimmons. That's the way I am. I'm really big on it. I really like to see just how a lot of people have figured stuff out, and success leaves clues. And if you're smart enough, you can find those clues, and that's really what I've dedicated myself to doing.
Mm-hmm. I was going to ask you a little bit later, but since we're talking about watching fights, I'm just curious, because you're such a big film study guy, do you have trouble disconnecting fighter from fan when you're watching fights? More so when you're watching fights in your weight class. Do you have a problem with just sitting back and enjoying the fights and not trying to evaluate and not trying to think of, if you were in there, what you would do, and thinking about, maybe down the line I might fight this guy, so it would be a good idea now to start scouting them? Do you have a problem separating between fan and fighter when you watch fights?
When it comes to watching fights, I don't like to be in groups when I do it. I'm not casual about it. I can separate it and I can enjoy it from a fan's perspective. Trust me. I mean, I was glued to the Gennady Golovkin fight, even though it's a boxing match, but I was absolutely glued like a little kid watching Hulk Hogan, wrestle the Iron Sheik. I can, but for the most part, I like to study. I like to see habits that people are making. I like to see tendencies and certain things, because you'll see in mixed martial arts, it comes in waves. You'll see, there was the Chuck Liddell era, where he sat back and he could throw a big punch, knock people out, and then you were seeing wrestlers take over, and then jiu-jitsu guys, and now it's kind of like a Jose Aldo type style, Conor McGregor, like guys who can really awesome at stand-up, and you just see it's just like the waves, how it happens, and I like to follow those trends. I really do.
What about when you watch a UFC fight? Right now you're on the cusp of getting signed by the UFC. I really do think if you win this fight, you'll get that call. But when you watch a UFC fight, do you ever have moments where you're like, oh man, if I fought this guy, I would just smash him, or I can't believe this guy's in the UFC and I'm not. What do I got to do to get in? I can't believe I'm watching this right now. I'm so much better than this guy, or I could beat that guy, or if I got in there, I would have done this different or that different. When you watch a UFC fight, do you ever have moments like that when you think about, what you would do in there, or say that you could beat some guy? Do you ever have moments like that?
Honestly, Mike, my philosophy is I wish success for everybody. Like when I see guys get into the UFC, let's say someone gets there before me, and maybe I have this belief that if I were to fight that guy, I would 100% win. I'm still happy for that person. To kind of answer your question, there's this saying, right? You'll believe it when you see it, right? Mm-hmm. And I used to have that philosophy, and I really have shifted that whole belief to, when I believe it, that's when I start to see it. So now when I watch the fights, I used to watch them, and this was about 2 years ago. I'd watch them and be like, man, look at these guys. How would I ever compete with them? And now when I'm watching it, I'm like, I can beat that guy. I know I can beat that guy. I 100% can beat him. And it's funny how when you really shift your belief, the way you change your habits and the things that start coming, the opportunities that start showing up. So, yeah, I watch the UFC welterweight division, and I'm like, put me in there. Please, I'd love to fight any one of those guys on any day. If my phone rang and they said, Sam, can you be there at 170 pounds on Saturday to weigh in, or Friday and weigh in and fight any top 10 guy, I would say yes. And I would believe in myself that it was going to happen, that I can win.
If you win this fight, will the UFC sign you?
I 100% believe that. I absolutely believe it. And if it doesn't, it's not going to change what I want to do every day. I'm still going to want to wake up every day and train and want to fight. So, but to be honest with you, October 31st, I'm going to come out there. I'm going to fight like hell. I'm going to win. And I'm going to get that phone call, and I'm going to sign that contract, and you will see me in the UFC.
if you defeat LaVon Maynard at CFFC 52, you'll extend your win streak to 9 in a row. If you finish the fight, it'll be 9 straight finishes, and if you finish the fight in the first round, it'll be 7 of those 9 victories have come in the first round. I know you said if the UFC signs you up to this fight, that's great, but if they don't sign you up to this fight, that's okay too. But at the same time, is there going to be a little part of you that questions not getting signed by the UFC should you win this fight? Because if you win this fight, it's a 9-fight win streak, and you finished all these fights, and you've been doing great, and you were fighting in a big show like Bellator, and the way in which you left Bellator was not like the typical way guys leave a promotion. Usually when guys leave a major promotion like the UFC or Bellator or World Series of Fighting, they leave on a 2 or 3 fight losing streak. You left Bellator when you were red hot. You were on this big win streak, and you were looking better than ever, and you finished all these fights in the first round. So if you don't get signed after this fight, should you win against LaVon Maynard, will you be disappointed if you don't get that call? And will you say to yourself, hey, what do I got to do to get into the UFC? If 9 fights in a row and 9 finishes is not good enough, what is good enough? Will you be questioning what it's going to take to make the jump to the UFC if they don't sign you after this fight?
I told, I did an interview the other day, and they basically asked the same question. And, if that did happen, which I think that's kind of like saying, I watched a pig get a running start and grow wings and then fly. You'd be like, well, that's a lie. So right. It's just, if that did happen, let's say that did happen, right? Which I believe is totally untrue and is not going to happen. There would have to be like something really wrong, like the fix is in, you know what I mean? Like something really weird is happening, and maybe the magnetic poles on planet Earth have shifted, and people's thoughts have went in different ways. So that's the only thing I can really think of, because I can't see anything else but exactly what I just said, me being victorious and me moving it on with my career and going to the places where I want to be, and that's in the UFC.
Right now, the UFC is in the process of cutting 50 fighters. So I'm just curious, when you see that the UFC is cutting 50 fighters, how does that make you feel? Does that make you feel worried that, hey, my plans on getting to the UFC might be delayed because they just cut a bunch of guys, so they might not have room to sign guys? Or does it motivate you because, they cut 50 guys, they must have cut them for a reason, they must be cutting them so that they can get 50 new guys in there, because obviously the UFC is going to run the same amount of shows, if not more, so they still have to have those 50 fighters to complete these cards, so they're still going to have to bring in guys to fight on those cards. So how does that make you feel? Does it make you feel worried, or does it make you feel motivated when you see the UFC is cutting 50 guys?
To answer that question, not to not move away from it, but I'm the youngest of 6 kids, man. I was raised by my mom. Raised by a single mother. My dad passed away when I was a little boy. I've been through some really tough times, and one thing I've always done in my whole life, no matter how hard life has gotten, is I always look at what I want to look at. I always choose to see the opportunity and never the obstacle. Because every time you view the obstacle, it starts to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and eventually you will turn that obstacle into something that you feel you can't get past. So, like, when I hear that, like, I saw that, I saw that they cut 50 guys. I looked at it as, just something that, it was just news. It was just news. Like, the UFC cut 50 guys, I'm going to wake up today, and I'm still going to go after my dream. If they said the UFC cuts 100 guys, or signed 100 guys, I'm still going to wake up and chase my dreams with passion, with excitement, with enthusiasm, regardless of what happens. I don't even care if my bills aren't paid. I don't care if they repossess my car. I'm still going to go after what I want in life, no matter what.
I think I already know the answer to this question, but I'll answer it anyways in case you throw me a curveball and give me a different answer than what I think. But Because obviously you could have stayed with Bellator and got some better paydays that I'm sure you're getting out on the regional circuit. You could have stayed in Bellator, made a good living, everything could have been fine, but you decided against that, went back to the regional circuit because you're trying to make it to the UFC because that's your goal. That's what you want to accomplish in the sport. You want to fight in the premier organization in MMA. So I'm just curious, what means more to you, glory or wealth?
You know, what is it, offered $1 million or wisdom, and he took wisdom, and they asked him, you know, how do you feel? He said, I should have took $1 million. Yeah, there's a part of me, and it's a big part of me, you know. They say money doesn't bring happiness, but everybody wants to find out, you know what I mean? It's like, I know what it's like to have really little in life, you know, growing up. There was definitely a lot of hard times that my family endured, and we got through it. And really what has made me the person I am today are those experiences and the character I got to build during it. And one big awakening I had in my life was after I lost in Bellator in 2011 was my last loss, and I kind of went into like a depression almost, you know, and it was really tough to deal with for myself. And I questioned a lot of things that were happening to me, and it was like, you know, one day I was just sitting there and kind of feeling sorry for myself, and I started to think about what's going to happen when I'm an old man, and, you know, I'm going to be on my deathbed, and, you know, I've never ever, you know, I watched my father go from a big, strong man to dying, you know, at a snap of fingers, and really, I've never seen a money truck follow a funeral procession, you know. At the end of the day, I want the experiences that I want in my life, and I want them more than I want money. And I really believe that when I get those experiences and I build that character, when I develop those traits, that's how I build my fortune. I'm not going to build my fortune by saying I have this much money in the bank. I'm going to build my fortune by becoming a better person, failing, getting humiliated, and then getting back up and going after it again. So I guess if that answers your question, you know, I'm always going to go after the experience. You know, I can always make money back. I'm never going to get time back. I'm 30 years old now. It's my time to go. One day I'm going to be dying, and we don't know what happens when we die. We can sit there and say, because somebody told me this, that this is what happens, and we don't know. But I'd like to say one day when I'm sitting there and, you know, that's it, I'm taking my last breath, I want to smile. You know what I mean? I want to sit there and say, go work, man. You went out there and you chased that dream, and you didn't let stupid things stop you, like what people think or how much money you're going to make while you're doing it. You went after it because you loved it.
When you made the decision to leave Bellator, did you think you were taking a big risk by leaving?
Honestly, I had a great time with Bellator. They were awesome. They treated me really well. They were really good to me. The people that worked there were really cool, very friendly, very helpful. But I think I was taking a bigger risk by staying. I really do. I think I was taking the biggest risk by staying, you know. I've always noticed with myself, when I grow is when I step outside of my comfort zone. So I was comfortable there. I was familiar. I knew the pattern. I knew how they did their fights. I remember how the cage felt underneath my feet, you know, the canvas. I remember everything. I know the way they would announce my name. I knew the walkout. I remember the smell of the smoke from the smoke machine, you know. But really, I really think I was taking a risk by staying because it wasn't exactly what I wanted, and I want to go after exactly what that is.
When was the last time you or your manager talked to Joe Silva?
I'm really not at liberty to say. I can't really say that. I feel like I know, but to be honest and to be fair, I really can't say. You know, I don't have. I've never talked to Joe Silva, so I'll just put it that way.
Okay. Fair enough. We touched on it a little bit earlier. Why have you decided to go back down to welterweight? Because obviously you had 2 failed attempts to try to make it to welterweight once before. You had a fight where you missed weight and the fight had to be changed to a 174-pound catchweight bout. And then the second time you tried to make welterweight, you didn't make it at all, and you couldn't fight the next day. You had to be taken to the hospital. You had some medical issues to take care of because of that weight cut. So I'm just curious, why are you going back down to welterweight? Why are you going to try to attempt to make that weight again, even though you've had the 2 bad weight cuts that didn't work out so well for you? So I'm just curious, why have you decided to once again try to make 170? Is it because you see yourself fighting in the UFC and making a run at welterweight, and you see yourself, as most people do, you view yourself as a top 10 welterweight in the UFC, you think you can make a successful run in that weight class, in that promotion? Or is it something where you just think you're too small for 185 and you're going to give 170 a shot? Is it something where you think the UFC will be more likely to sign you if you drop down a weight class? Why exactly are you trying to once again make welterweight?
I truly believe in my heart of hearts that I can be the best 170-pound fighter in the world. I truly believe it. And I believe it because of my size, my length, the strengths I have there, the advantages that my natural body's attributes give me. And I recently, 7 months ago, the greatest gift of my life was given to me with my daughter Jenny. And every day I look at her, I want the best for her, and I want her to see her father being a hard worker. I want her to see her father holding a high standard for himself. And, I'm totally changing everything in my life. And that's the reason why I really believe it, because I don't think that the way I used to think before was certain things were okay, like to eat bad or to only be on a diet 6 weeks before my fight. That's stupid. No, I got to be on a diet every day of my life. I need to show her that this is the way you do it. You don't do it for a couple weeks until the fight happens or until that moment you've been waiting. No, you make this your life. You have to develop these habits. We all have the capacity to be great, to be successful, and we have to build those habits. And that's the reason why I wasn't making weight. I didn't live those habits. And now that I do it every day, it's crazy the way everything is changing, and it's all because of my daughter. It's all 100% because of my daughter. I love her that much. I've never been that type of person that really falls in love or has been love struck. And every day I look at my daughter Jenny, like I can't even leave the gym sometimes. I feel guilty taking my gloves off. I need to get to that point where I feel like I can't even stand up when I'm training, and then I have to keep going. So it's all for her. Everything I do, I want to be happy, I want all these things, but at the end of the day, I want to give my child the best life that I can, and I want to be able to say that I worked the hardest I could to give her the best life.
In addition to having your daughter, on the business side of things, staying on this diet year-round and keeping your weight low, how much does it factor in? Because when the UFC signs guys, they sign guys for short notice fights. They usually don't sign guys and then, okay, hey, we just signed you, and then in 9 weeks you're going to fight this guy on this date. No, it's usually when Joe Silva's calling you, he's offering you for a fight in a week or 9 days or whatever. Yep. They need you. How much does that factor into you keeping this diet going all year round?
I've been on it for months before the fight, and I'm going to continue to stay on it because, I'm the type of guy that doesn't believe in luck. I don't. I really don't believe in luck. I believe you create your own success. But I've heard the definition that it's when preparation meets opportunity. I don't know when my number is going to get called, okay? But when it does, I want to be ready. So just that idea of me wanting it that bad, I got to stay motivated. And it's easy to stay motivated when you love what you do. I love being at the gym and training. I really do. I really honestly do. I love improving. I love going up against guys that I believe are better than me. And I love testing myself. I love trying to find a way to punch harder, to punch faster, to kick stronger, to do all that. So, I mean, really, if I could be on a deserted island and I'd have nothing to do, I would be shadowboxing. I would be doing push-ups. I would, cut a palm tree down to make a pull-up bar. So it's what I would be doing regardless. and it definitely makes it easier when you love it.
Sponsorship and the Reebok deal are two very big topics in MMA. They kind of go hand in hand, obviously, because that Reebok deal eliminated sponsors from the UFC. So I'm just curious, because you have a lot of sponsors, a lot of people support you. I'm curious to know how many of those sponsors will stick around when you make that jump to the UFC, even though you can't wear them inside the octagon. Will your sponsors stick around, the people who are supporting you right now? Will all of them stick around? 1 or 2 stick around? 5 of them stick around? You know, when you make that jump to the UFC and you can't wear them in the octagon, you only can wear Reebok. Will your sponsors still support you? Will they still stick around?
You know, it really is like life. We think life is like this thing where things just kind of, like, they just float around and we bump into it. We attract everything that happens into our lives. We really do. And I believe those people that, you know, that pay me money to put their logo on the shirt, and that, you know, see me on Facebook saying, thanking them and doing all that awesome stuff, they're not there because they want to get money off me, or they're hoping that this advertisement brings them this much money or this many more likes on Facebook. I really believe the people that do it, they're doing it because they see themselves in me. You know, they see somebody who is dead set on making their dreams their reality, and they can identify with me. And, you know, all those people you see on my shirt or on my shorts, they generally do care about me. And a lot of them are neighborhood guys. A lot of them are family members. And I see me getting in the UFC, and I want to be able to wear any of those, like, into the cage. I want to be able to wear those logos. But I guarantee if I said, hey, does anybody want to get on a shirt that I'm going to be selling that you can wear, it would be insane. It would be outrageous. It would go up. There'd be more people willing to help, I feel like.
Sam, we'll end on this. It's a little segment I like to call Really Random. That's where I ask you a random question and you give me the real answer. Some of these questions are custom made just for you, and some of these questions are random ones that I ask all the people I interview. So here's the first question. Superpower you'd love to have?
Superpower I would love to have would be, I think about this all the time, I want to be a part tiger-human hybrid, kind of like Beast from X-Men. And I want to be orange with black stripes, and I want to have, like, that ability to be, like, super strong and run and climb trees and jump really high and do all really cool stuff that a tiger could do.
Favorite movie?
The Goonies, 100%, of course. That's a silly question.
Movie you've seen the most times?
Movie I've seen the most time, The Goonies. Are you kidding me? I'm probably going to watch it tonight.
Favorite color?
Blue.
Favorite guilty pleasure?
Favorite guilty pleasure? Oh, my goodness, man. Ice cream, cookies, cheeseburgers, cheesesteaks, bacon, everything I'm not allowed to eat. Trying to stay away from that. Fighting the urge to eat a cheeseburger is definitely the cheeseburgers all day long and pizza. That's all I think about. Like, it falling from the sky and it landing on my lap and it being right out of the oven and amazing.
Celebrity people say you look like?
Celebrity people say I look like. You know, people used to call me in high school, they used to call me Screech because I had a fro.
Oh.
And when I look back at when I had the fro and how skinny I was, too, I'm like, I could kind of see it. So I'd say that's the name I got called the most.
Go-to song when you're singing in the shower?
Holy smokes. Go-to song when I'm singing in the shower? It's a soul song. It's a Motown song. Gosh, anything from the Four Tops, the Temptations, Wilson Pickett. You would think I was from the 50s and I was a soul singer.
How many pairs of shoes do you have? Because I've heard you have quite the collection.
It's disgusting. And you know what? I'm appalled at myself that I allowed myself to do that now that I'm a father. Like, I don't want my daughter to see that. Like, how irresponsible is that? It's outrageous. It's in, like, the 30s or 40s. It's stupid. It really is. Like, I go through and I'm like, whoa, I have these shoes. I forgot about these. I should wear these one day. And then I put them back in the box and forget that they're there for another year.
Are you going to keep adding to your collection?
You know what? See, the hardest thing is this, too. I love sneakers. I love stupid T-shirts. I love hats. Like, all dumb stuff that's never going to make my life better. So, you know, when I dream of knocking someone out in the UFC and getting a win bonus, yeah, I'm going to buy more of that stupid stuff and then regret it later. You know what I mean? Like, that's exactly what I'm going to do. Why would I change that? So, yeah, I'm going to buy more.
Do you have a favorite pair in your collection?
My favorite pair in my collection are the Air Jordans, the 6s, only because that was the ad when I was a little kid. It's got to be the shoes with Spike Lee. And I remember watching that when I was a kid and being like, man, I just want those shoes. But, you know, when I was a kid, those shoes were still like $120 when they came out. And when you're the youngest of 6 kids, like your mom doesn't buy you sneakers. You get your brother's shoes that he used to wear. And she's definitely not spending $100 for a pair of basketball shoes.
Do you have a wish list for shoes you want, or is it mostly when you buy shoes, they're kind of like impulse buys where you go to a shoe store and then you see a pair you like and then you just buy them? Do you have a wish list of shoes you want?
There's a list. There's like a strategic plan list of shoes that I will buy at times when they happen. Yeah, like I already know like my next 5 pairs of sneakers that I'm going to get.
What's your pet peeve?
When people have the urge to tell you how good they are at, put the activity in there. I don't care. I was this good at wrestling. I was this good. I'm this boxer. You know, people who were the best at never doing anything. Like, yeah, I was so good at it that I just decided not to do it anymore. And if I would have kept doing it, then I probably would be in the UFC and I would be a world champion. Those guys. Those people who talk like that, I can't stand it. Or people who say, oh, you fight? I got a cousin that fights. Do you know him? No, I don't know your cousin who fights. What gym does he train at? I forget the name of it. You know, that type of stuff. I can't stand it.
Since you're going to be fighting on Halloween, what's your favorite candy?
Reese Cups. Like, I always want to eat Reese Cups. When people say that and they see me, like, if I worked out really hard and I'm like, I earned those Reese Cups, and it's like, it's always like when you're at the store and like you see somebody and they're like, yo, you hear me, Reese Cups? We got a fight coming up. I'm like, shut up, dude. Like, I'm a human being. Like, I want to eat Reese Cups all day long. There's never a time in my life where I'm like, I'm not in the mood for a Reese Cup.
Are you a fan of Halloween?
Not really. No, not at all. The way it's turned into like dudes trying to be the gladiator because they want to show off their six packs, so they wear like this outfit that I'm like, dude, come on, like really, like. I don't like that, and then girls dress up like skanks. Like, I'm not saying that to be mean, but that whole thing, like, yeah, it looks good. Like, I'm not going to lie, I like looking at girls. But, I mean, the way it's got so about trying to look this part has annoyed me. So I always have so much respect for people that are like, they pull out this costume where you're like, you went to the thrift store, you thought about this, like, you worked hard for that, and it was so original and so funny. Like, I love that stuff, but that's, like, basically dead now because everyone wants to do something cheesy.
Is there any chance we see you walk out in costume, or is that not your thing?
I tell people all the time, like, if you're expecting a show in my walkout, you're crazy because the show I put on is when I walk into the cage and that's it. Never, ever would I do something like that. I'm not that type of guy. I'm really not. I would feel so awkward and uncomfortable and unnatural doing that. You couldn't pay me money to do that.
You were on Season 3 of Bully Beatdown. First, how did that opportunity come about? And second, is that show real?
Okay, the opportunity came about because I was fighting for King of the Cage at the time, so they were like kind of pulling from there. If you watch, there's a lot of that. But that was the season where they had, you know, Daniel Cormier, Joe Riggs, Jake Shields, Mayhem Miller actually beat up a bully on that. Is it real? They do casting calls. So, like... yes and no. I guess they could know each other, but they really, like, I think there was, like, a couple people who were like, yeah, we never met this guy in our lives, and we're just acting like he's picking on us. But is it real in the sense that I submitted the guy and punched him and kicked him? Yeah, 100% real. I felt so bad for the dude. I felt so bad for him. Like, I did certain things to the guy that I knew would just make him weaker. Like, scared the hell out of him. So, yeah, it's real. But I didn't try hurting him, let's just put it that way.
Is it true you played Jay from Jay and Silent Bob in a staged MMA fight on the AMC TV series Comic Book Men?
Yeah, okay. I got to meet Jay and Silent Bob. That was the first time I ever had hair and makeup done. Yeah, so it was Comic Book Men. Kevin Smith wanted to have Jay and Silent Bob fight each other to see what would happen, and I got to be Jay, and I got to meet the real Jay, and it was kind of cool. Like, it would have been cooler if it was like the high school me meeting the real Jay, but it was still like the experience was fun, and we rehearsed the fight scenes, and it was just fun. It was just a good time.
Who picked you to be Jay from Jay and Silent Bob in that episode? Was it AMC? They picked you? Or was it Nate Quarry? Because Nate Quarry, that's how this whole thing got started. He wrote a comic book, Zombie Cage Fighter, and then he went into Jay and Silent Bob's secret stash, and he sold them the comic book, and then they were talking about MMA, and they said they'd never seen a live fight, and then one thing led to another, and then they staged this fight between Jay and Silent Bob, because obviously it's Kevin Smith's show. So who picked you for that show? Was it Nate Quarry?
Well, Nate Quarry is friends with a member of Team Balance, so that's kind of how it came about. Tim Carpenter and Marco Ferrazzo have trained with Nate Quarry, and they're like friends with him. You know, they talk to him. I don't think they get invited to, get-togethers and stuff, but I know they're friendly, and they're Jay and Kevin Smith and Jay are both from New Jersey, so that gym was in New Jersey, and it was a Balance affiliate school, so that's kind of how I got selected.
Who was Silent Bob?
Tim Carpenter. He's a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He fought in Bellator. Right. Bad dude. I'm not beating him in a fight unless they rehearse it and they say I win.
Oh. What's your day job?
I work at, well, just put it this way. I work at a pharmaceutical site, and I'm basically the maintenance man there. I have a big set of keys with 1 million keys on it that I forget which one unlocks what door. I work on the lab equipment, and I wear my shirt that has my name tag on it, and I carry my tool bag with me, so technically I'm basically the maintenance guy.
Time period you'd like to go back and visit, and why?
A time period I would like to go back to visit, and why? I would like to go back to the 30s and 40s when boxing was awesome, when Joe Louis was around, when James Braddock fought, when Ray Robinson was fighting, Jake LaMotte was fighting. They were that was the best era for me when I look back and see the way people acted, see the way people, kind of conducted themselves. Like, everybody was a hard worker. I really feel like that was a time when America was just incredibly awesome. And I feel I got to live in a great era of American history in the 90s, because the 90s were awesome. I mean, we had the dream team. It was competitive. People were, working to be better. And I just feel like now the standard is just lower, and it bothers me. It kind of bothers me a little bit, but 30s or 40s, definitely.
Now, let's say you found a magic lamp, and you rubbed that magic lamp, and a genie appeared, and the genie said he was going to grant you 3 wishes. What would those 3 wishes be, and why? 3
wishes. I would want a big, giant house out in this beautiful neighborhood by me where people with big bank accounts live. That would definitely be one, with a lot of land. Number 2 would be to have my college that I would like to go back to school for psychology. I'm so big into reading. I'm so big into just how the mind works, emotions, all that stuff. So I'd love to have that paid for. And number 3, I would want ponies for my daughter, as many ponies as she wanted. I've been looking up prices of them. They're expensive as hell. And there's miniature ones. They're called shallot ponies. I want one for her so bad.
Person you look up to the most?
Person I look up to the most is always going to be my father. It's always going to be my dad. Everything I do, I'm doing it because I want to make him proud. He was my hero. He always did the right thing. He always conducted himself as a professional, as, he was a man of integrity. He was a man of character. And still to this day, he's my hero.
What do you worry about? What's something that keeps you up at night?
Living a mediocre, normal life scares the hell out of me. Absolutely frightens me. It scares me so much that I will do whatever it takes to make sure I never fall into that trap of being comfortable, waking up, going to a job that I don't really like, getting paid a certain amount of money to allow me to live a lifestyle where I'm just kind of getting by and I can do a little bit, and I talk about football games with my coworkers, and then I go home and I sit there and eat dinner and we talk about what did we do that day. Nothing much, really. What did you? Oh, okay, that's great. Go to bed, wake up, do it again. Normal life scares the hell out of me.
Best advice you were ever given through life, and best advice you were ever given through fighting, and who gave it to you?
Best advice I was ever given in life. Man, that is a great question, and I'm like thinking of so many different people that I have kind of learned from, and geez, I will tell you the best advice I've ever gotten from fighting is the best advice I've ever gotten from fighting is from Eddie Alvarez, and he said, train hard, never quit. And it's so simple, and it makes so much sense. And when you apply that to your life, if you just work hard and just don't quit, you believe in yourself, you go after it, you test yourself, you challenge yourself, you get knocked down, you get back up, you do it again, you figure out a different way, and you'll get there. I guess I'll have to say the best advice I was ever given in life is, man, like I'm trying to put it this way. Tony Robbins said it in the way, life will pay any price you ask of it. The Sermon on the Mount. Mm-hmm. Whatever you seek, you will find. Whatever door you knock upon, it will open. Whatever you ask will be answered. It's the truth, If you search to make yourself a better person, you're going to become a better person. Whatever doors you knock on, the doors of opportunity or the doors of obstacles, they're going to get open for you. It's your choice on what you pick. You can choose to be negative, you can choose to be positive. That's probably the best advice I was ever given in life. And that's in the Bible. That's simple. That's not even weird.
Number one thing on your bucket list.
Number one thing on my bucket list? Gosh. Do you know what? I definitely would say the number one thing on my bucket list, like the most important thing, would definitely be to travel to Africa. I'm being dead serious, man. I love wildlife. I know I said tiger. They're native to Asia. I know that. But to go to Africa to see big cats, all that stuff, that's number one, man. I definitely want to do that.
What's your hidden talent?
My hidden talent. I'll say this. I'm a good dancer. I can dance. I could always dance, too. Like, it came natural to me. And I believe that's important, that people know how to do that. Mm-hmm. Like, because it's fun. Everyone should do that every once in a while.
Mm-hmm. One thing I've always been curious about, because obviously I'm not a fighter, I'll never be in a professional fight, so I don't know how this feels. So I always ask someone when they have a quick stoppage like you have, because you have one fight back in 2010 where the fight ended in 9 seconds. So I'm just curious, when you get a 9-second stoppage, how does it feel? Does it feel like you were in the cage longer than 9 seconds, and when you hear the ring announcer say in 9 seconds you won the fight, are you like, oh, that's all? Like, I thought it was longer. Or when you win a fight in 9 seconds, does it feel shorter than that, and you're like, whoa, 9 seconds, I thought I got it done in 4. How does it feel when you get a quick stoppage like that?
It's this, and I got to make this my last one because I got to run.
Sure.
Sorry, I wasn't trying to cut you off, Mike.
No problem.
It always feels longer than what it really was, and it's like best feeling in the world. Well, no, it's not the best feeling in the world. It's relieving. It's like when you pop a giant pimple, or you get an ingrown hair out, but times 1,000. Like, you work so hard for that. Like, that's what I work hard for, to end the fight as quickly as possible. Mm-hmm. So you always think you're in there longer than what you really are, though. It's weird. Mm-hmm. And when it's like, let's say like that 9-second knockout or certain things that have happened, it's like when the basketball players who score a crazy amount of points in a game, they said the rim looked like it was, as big as a giant circle they could ever imagine. That's what it's like. You see that target and all of a sudden it's like, I can't miss.
Sam, thank you for taking the time to talk. I really appreciate it. Good luck Halloween night at CFFC 52 against LaVon Maynard.
Also, I had a great time. My pleasure, Mike.